All right, so welcome to the workshop on how to launch an informational campaign on Twitter using BroadStreet. So here helping me is Kalama Kalei Mahoihoi Porter, also known as Kalei Porter, and myself, I'm Tracy Flood, CEO and co-founder of BroadStreet. All right, so first things first, I'm going to screen share and we're going to go to the very start of it all, and then we'll step by step over the next few minutes. All right. So I'm going to start here on the login of BroadStreet. If you haven't yet created a BroadStreet account, it is free. I'm going to say that all of the things that we're doing today are free on a free account. As you start to build in more and more stories, you may hit a storage limit, at which time you won't be able to build any more stories without a membership. Memberships are designed to be affordable. If you believe that you cannot afford a membership, then please talk to Kalei, as we believe that everyone should have access to the best information possible. All right, so here I am in the sign-in. You'll see that right now I'm on broadstreet.io. That is essentially the sign-in page. If I have an account, I can go ahead and click sign in. If I don't have a membership yet, this is where I would click. I would either sign in, I could sign in with my Google Universal Login. I could also click here under need a membership, sign up. If I do that, then essentially it'll prompt me to create an account. And creating an account is definitely pretty normal and standard. It'll send you an email looking for verification, and then essentially you're in. So rather than pausing, since half of you have an account and half of you do not, I'm going to go ahead and log in. All right, so here I am on my homepage of BroadStreet. So now I'm home. I'm essentially here. Just to orient those of you who are fairly new to the site, this is the homepage. You're going to see that right here are story templates. They're shaped like cards. Pretty much everything on our site is built off of cards. All cards have the ability to save and share, add to favorites, or even if you see an error, please feel free to let us know there. But basically all cards are shareable modules or entities of BroadStreet. So the reason why this comes in handy is because it is possible to essentially choose the cards you want for your social media campaign. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to run a food access report, or I'm at least going to start and go through the motions using a saved area. If this was a brand new 101 workshop, I would set up a new area. For right now, I'm going to click my saved area. I do have a whole bunch of saved areas that you can see. I'm going to choose one, and then I'm going to click next. Essentially, that process of clicking on just that template card and choosing an area essentially runs the report. So now going in the background is essentially a report builder that's building all of the cards for that food access report for the region of Asheville, North Carolina. All right, so right now I've created this report. I have the ability to either edit the story or to view the story, essentially the published storyboard. For the purposes of this demo, it really doesn't matter which one I do. The story editor is a little bit harder to view than the finished published story. All right, so right now I've essentially run a food access report, and remember what I mentioned, that the whole site is built on cards. All of these right here, this is an area card. All of these are data cards. And the cool thing about these is that you can favorite them. You can save them for later. If I really liked this, I can actually save this for later as well. So essentially all of these are set up to be cards that can be shuffled and saved and shared, and each little card has this ability. Also, each card, you can click on it and you can see a lot more details, and you can then download. You can copy the link to this card. Each card has a unique link. You can save it. If I were to save this, I would then see all of the stories that I've run in the past. I've run a lot of stories. So right now, this is essentially my story list. I do actually have a place where I want to save this. I want to save it under a story that I've called custom report for this workshop, and I'm going to save it there. All right. All right, I'm pretty happy with myself. I'm liking that card. If I'm actually looking and I'm like, oh well, hmm, that's really interesting for Asheville, but I'm actually a little bit interested in a different area altogether. I can actually run a totally different report, or I can actually do something called changing out the area tags. I'm going to show you what that is, but I have to go to the story editor. So right now, because I'm an editor of this story, I can actually click here. I've done sort of a cooking show style, and I already have a one pulled up here. Let me see. I'm going to push edit for this story. All right, so now I'm in the story editor. The story editor is quite cool, actually. You can do cards in shuffle mode, so I can switch cards around. I can create new sections. I can create new words. If I don't like the boilerplate text that comes with the report. So if I was like, oh, this is like clearly, some Broad Street boilerplate stuff, I can definitely edit this, and I can say something like, this is for our service area, or however you define your region. All right, so I can edit. So the storyboard is meant to be editable. You can change around the cards. You can change around the words. And I'm flying through this just a little bit because I want to get to kind of the good stuff here. All right, so here within the story editor, I can edit the order of the cards. I can edit the words, and then I can republish it. The reason why this is important is that if you have a really quick presentation that you need to do, you can go in, run a report, edit it, make sure it fits the needs of your presentation or whatever grant you're applying to, or whatever meeting you're going to. And then essentially you essentially republish it. And then this public link can be shared with others. So this becomes a really good tool for meetings. We kind of like to imagine people in active community and stakeholder engagement meetings using BroadStreet. And so in a very practical way, you can use BroadStreet on pretty much any device. All you have to do is share this link during your meeting. All right, so that is just a fly through of some of the super basic features. You might have noticed that some of these cards I've saved. I saved as my favorites. I've also shared the card to one of my other stories. Let's see what that did. All right, I'm going to go back to Broad Street Home here. All right, so here are the Broad Street Home. You might notice that there's a few other routes to take. So these are all story templates. Clicking them enters into a story wizard that we just saw that creates a finished storyboard. You can also go to the map room. You can also go to here in the left navigation where you can see all of the cards that you favorited along the way. I do recommend using this favorite feature. If you ever find a card that you like, feel free to favorite it. And then also the stories that I've made are here. Okay. So one of the things that I did say was that I was saving that particular card to one particular story. I actually created this story from scratch just for this meeting. I did it by going here to the Broad Street homepage and clicked on create a new story from scratch, which is really just an empty storyboard, waiting for cards to be put into it and waiting for words to be typed. Let's see. So let's go to that. So here it is, my custom story that I've made just for this particular meeting. I did this by essentially saving cards to this story, basically by saying save to and then picking this story from amongst those that I had. So if you remember, I did this. And even doing that will likely create a duplicate there. But essentially, okay, so now I have some really cool cards that I'm ready to share. All right. There's one. I'm not sure if I want Asheville. I'm gonna go to the story editor. Okay, so now in the story editor, I did promise that there was one very cool feature about, I made two. There was one very cool feature about cards. and the areas. So right now I can actually click on the area tag and I can change the area, and I'm going to show you what that does in just a moment. All right, and then that updates all of the data for that particular area. I really like this feature. So as you can tell, I saved this card to this section twice, essentially. Then that created a duplicate. And now I'm able to see the comparison of those two places side by side. If I had multiple service areas or regions that I covered, it is really nice within a custom story to create a duplicate card and to essentially set the areas to the ones that you wanted to see. All right, so now what I'd really like to do is I'd like to share this on Twitter. Or if some of you are on Facebook or interested in Facebook, I'll show you how to do that too. Okay, so each data card itself has an associated unique link. You are able to copy this link. This link basically says, come see this card in this story. And I'm able to share this really with anyone. If somebody clicks on this link, it'll essentially take them to the wide version of this card. So they'll see this if they take that link. And for the most part, they don't need to log in to be able to see that, which is kind of cool. So you can share this within meetings. All right. I can also, when I go to share, I can also save it too, which is a feature that I've been showing throughout this workshop. I can also download. So right now, the PNG download image is optimized for Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. It's unfortunately not optimized yet for Instagram. Instagram really likes square images, and this one's definitely rectangular. All right, so I'm just going to open this up so you can see what it looks like. All right, so this is what it looks like. Really, that download feature is really nice if you're creating some sort of PDF or Word document or PowerPoint presentation, or if you want to post it to social media. All right, so back to here. So those are some of our more advanced share features. The next one that I want to show you is something that combines this unique link with the PNG from the download, and that's posting it to Twitter. We don't yet have posting it to Facebook or Instagram yet, but stay tuned. Right now, we do enable direct posting to Twitter. So on Twitter, you can see that I've already been authorized to directly post from Broad Street to Twitter. If you are not authorized yet, what you'll essentially see is this screen here. All right, so if I hadn't been authorized yet to post directly to Twitter from Broad Street, this is the pop-up that I would see. And essentially, all you would have to do is to authorize the app. It is possible at that point to unauthorize the app from within Twitter. So it is a reversible process. But essentially, you would authorize Twitter to post whatever you were sending from Broad Street. It does help if while you're authorizing, you're also logged into Twitter in the background. That can really move the process along. All right, so if I wasn't authorized yet, this is the pop-up that I would see. Then once I authorize, then this becomes the next screen. All right, so I am going to post this, and then I will show you what it looks like in Twitter. All right, so I'm going to go to Twitter, and I'm going to do a little bit of a spoiler that I teed up some of these kind of cooking show style, kind of already within Twitter. And so you might see a duplicate, but let's look. All right, so all right, there it is. So what I should be able to see here in Twitter is this post that I just did. So hopefully you find that these data visualizations are nicely laid out and ready to go. We do try really hard to make sure that they're beautiful and ready to share. And then for anybody who clicks on this link, whether or not they're logged into Broad Street, whether or not they have an account on Broad Street, they'll essentially be able to see this wide card. I'm going to pause there because that was a lot of information all at once. And I'll pause for questions, and I'll also pause the recording.